Okay, we'll go ahead and start for those that are on board, and I appreciate everybody being on. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for attending this unique press conference. My name is Kurt Erickson, and I'm president of the Virginia-based nonprofit Washington Regional Alcohol Program, or WRAP. WRAP serves as project director of the Commonwealth's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign, the 2020 version of which we're being unveiled today. Before we begin, I want to let everyone in attendance know that a copy of today's remarks heard today, as well as a video of the press conference and new ad, can be made available for your download after this event. Our speakers today will also be able to answer questions at the end of the event. So if you have questions, you may submit them throughout the program using WebEx's Q&A feature, and the moderators will direct them to the appropriate respondent. I want to welcome some honored guests, most notably Virginia's Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, Brian Moran, and of course, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. We're going to be hearing from each of them shortly, but I first want to quickly introduce the Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign. While we are experiencing a unique set of circumstances this year, it's important not to forget about another public health threat, which has been taking lives in the Commonwealth for decades: drunk driving. At WRAP, we're proud to have been part of the effort to lower Virginia's drunk driving rates for the last 19 years. In fact, and since the inception of Virginia's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign, alcohol-impaired traffic fatalities in the Commonwealth have been reduced by over a quarter, and the number of alcohol-impaired traffic injuries annually occurring on the Commonwealth's roadways have been nearly cut in half. We're supported locally by a grant from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles Highway Safety Office, and we thank them for their support. Checkpoint Strikeforce is a research-based, zero-tolerance initiative designed to identify and apprehend drunk drivers via sobriety checkpoints and other law enforcement efforts, as well as educate the public about the dangers and consequences of drunk driving. Our primary audience is male drivers in Virginia between the ages of 21 and 35, a group difficult to reach with standard run-of-the-mill public awareness campaigns, yet the group statistically at the highest risk for drunk driving. Virginia's Act Like It campaign, originally unveiled in 2018, was designed with them in mind. We know from research that our primary audience agrees that people who drink and drive are not acting like responsible adults. Virginia's 30-second ad and related materials remind drivers that drinking and driving is irresponsible. No matter if you're socializing with friends outdoors or on the couch with your partner, if they're old enough to drink, they should act like it and not get behind a wheel after drinking. I now have the pleasure of sharing our new ad, which was developed to reflect this new world we are living in.
I want ice cream.
Seriously?
Seriously? I'm gonna drive to get my ice cream.
No, you're not. Play with it.
No, I'm driving.
Really? Drinking and driving? How old are you?
I'm a big boy.
One of the key reasons this campaign continues to deliver results is its data-driven roots. Checkpoint Strikeforce makes decisions based on the research it collects. For example, this year's survey of 600 male drivers in Virginia revealed that over half of them admitted to either driving after having a few drinks or being driven by someone who had a few drinks. We also know that even though a very strong majority, 95% to be specific, of our audience of males ages 21 to 35 believe it's very important to make a plan to get home safely before going out for the evening, less than 2/3 frequently plan ahead for said safe ride home. And despite the public health concerns surrounding COVID-19, we know that more than half of the men surveyed said that they have needed a ride home after drinking more or the same amount this year versus 2019. The risk of drunk driving is still ever present even during a pandemic. Finally, our research also shows that the audience consumes messages differently than the broader population. They live online, which is why this year's campaign will continue on the successes of the previous 2 years to reach our audience where they are watching shows, connecting with friends, reading content, listening to music using a mix of platforms and tactics to best reach and surround them with our message. That means tools like streaming video commercials, social advertising on platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitch, display ads, digital billboards, and radio ads. This year, we have also developed advertising to reach the Spanish-speaking audience in the Commonwealth. Spanish speakers will see the Act Like It creative in digital banner ads and on streaming radio. We're excited to dive into some of these more modern marketing techniques because the more effective this campaign is, the more lives are saved. On the subject of saving lives, I now have the privilege of introducing someone who has already done a great deal to protect the citizens of our Commonwealth. Virginia Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, Brian Moran.
I'm unmuted. So, Kurt, thank you very much. Great to see you again, even if it's over WebEx. And thank you for your many years committed to this issue. And you've indeed saved lives through your dedication and work on this issue. So thank you. And thanks to all of those who are attending this WebEx and viewing us today. Throughout my career, as you've alluded to, I have worked to make Virginians feel safe in the communities in which they live and work. But unfortunately, far too many times in my role as a county prosecutor, state delegate, and in my current job as Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, I've seen the devastating impact that drunk driving can have on a family. That is why I'm honored today to represent the women and men in uniform who, as part of Virginia's Checkpoint Strikeforce campaign, will be out on our roads seeking to deter and prevent drunk driving. Virginians statewide can expect to see more state troopers on the Commonwealth roadways as all available Virginia State Police personnel will work through the Labor Day holiday weekend. They will be working pursuant to Operation CARE, the Crash Awareness Reduction Effort. CARE is a nationwide state-sponsored traffic safety program that aims to reduce traffic crashes, fatalities, and injuries caused by impaired driving, speeding, and failing to use occupant restraints. Buckle up. Virginia State Police participation in the program will begin Friday, September 4th, continue through midnight, Monday, September 7th. DUI enforcement efforts throughout Virginia at the state and local levels will take place from August 26th through Labor Day weekend and resume periodically through target moments like Halloween, Thanksgiving, and New Year's Eve, which we know to be dangerous holidays on our roadways due to impaired and drunk driving. We're focused on these holidays because the data shows that they are points in high DUI activity. Last year, during the Labor Day holiday weekend, drivers between the ages of 18 and 34 who were killed in crashes, 60% of those fatalities involved drunk drivers. So the data is clear. In 2019, Virginia State Police arrested 76 drunk drivers during the Labor Day holiday weekend. 76 during the weekend. Significant number. In total, in 2019, 18,648 persons were convicted. Now, that's just not arrests. Those are convictions. Many people are arrested and avoid conviction. But 18,648 persons were convicted of DUI in Virginia just in the year 2019. We've got to get those numbers down, and that's why we will be deterring and preventing drunk driving. So please don't drink and drive. We take it deadly seriously here in the Commonwealth. There are stiff penalties, including jail time, suspension of driver's licenses, high fines. So the message is clear. Virginia law enforcement will be on the roads and will be watching. We want people to get home safe, and we'll use zero tolerance when it comes to protecting innocent lives. So thank you to everyone for coming today and for your attention on this important issue. So I now have the wonderful opportunity to introduce my boss, someone who in his private life has seen the trauma of not only drunk driving, but other traumatic events and physical injury as a pediatric neurologist. So he knows how important this issue is, and somebody who has been working day and night to save lives based on all the current COVID crisis and been doing a marvelous job. And it's so wonderful to have a doctor in the House and in the governor's mansion. So without any further ado, I want to introduce the 73rd Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Ralph Northam.
Thanks, Secretary Moran. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Yes? All right, great. Well, first of all, thank you for your leadership and doing all the great work with your staff to keep Virginians safe. This, I think we could all agree, has been a busy couple years now with COVID-19 and certainly the protests that have been going on, and we're in hurricane season. So Secretary Moran has been earning his keep. And so, Brian, thanks for all the great work that you're doing. And Kurt, thank you as well for your leadership and for having me here today. 2020 has been a challenging year for all Virginians. Just a year ago, we could have never imagined being threatened by some of the things that worry our families today. We all have new things to worry about: our health, our family's health, our jobs, our economy. We're all worried about how to keep our loved ones safe. And we shouldn't have to worry about someone getting behind the wheel of a vehicle after drinking. If a loved one goes out, we shouldn't have to worry if they'll make it home safely. We all know that for the families who have lost someone to drunk driving, life will never be the same, never be normal again. Virginians have proven their resiliency during this COVID-19. People have stepped up, showing a sense of responsibility to their neighbors and their community. People understand that in this pandemic, their actions affect the people around them. That is how we need to view drunk driving, quite frankly. We can apply the same collective action and shared responsibility we have applied to stop the spread of this virus to reverse the trends of drunk driving. So through campaigns like Checkpoint Strikeforce, the Commonwealth has done an admirable job to reduce the number of fatalities on our roads. The work we do over the next few months will save lives, plain and simple. So please do your part to save lives in Virginia. If you're old enough to drink, act like it. Never get behind the wheel after you've been drinking. And thanks to all of you for attending today's event. Stay safe, stay healthy. We're going to get through this pandemic and hopefully get through Labor Day and other weekends and days to keep Virginians safe. So thanks for everybody being part of this. Kirk, I will turn it back over to you. And again, thank you for your leadership.
To our great Commonwealth. I'll now be taking questions from the reporters in attendance. Again, if you have any questions, please, and we only have Secretary Moran and the Governor for a few minutes, but if you have any questions, please direct them to my colleagues, Ashley Middleton or Connor Greeley, using the Q&A function on this WebEx platform, and they'll help me direct questions to the appropriate audience. And so I'm going to split and try to see this now and see what questions that we might have. And Ashley, do we have any questions? Oh, there we go. Sorry. I'll either the governor or the secretary, if they'd like to choose this one. How has COVID-19 affected drunk driving in Virginia? I'll start with just a stat, because I think that one of the stats was already mentioned, was the fact that we do a survey for this campaign. We don't create this campaign in a vacuum. We actually survey 600 21 to 35-year-old male drivers in July every year, and then we survey them again in January to see if we've changed their attitudes or their behaviors in terms of drunk driving. When we surveyed them just last month, over half, 52%, said that they needed a ride more or the same this year as in 2019. So their need for a ride hasn't changed. What's, I think, a little bit disappointing, at least for me, is the fact, and we just got these stats in from our DMV partner yesterday, is that they looked at drunk driving trends in the Commonwealth between January 1st and August 25th of this year versus the same time last year. And whereas any drop in these preventable, 100% preventable fatalities is welcome, it's a little disappointing that they're only down 6%. Again, I welcome 6%, but it's just a little disappointing during a pandemic when they're down only 6%. So let me not interrupt the governor or the secretary. If you want to address, again, the question was, how has COVID-19 affected drunk driving in Virginia?
Let me take a stab at that, Kurt, and then Brian can follow up, and he may have more data on it. But just from our perspective, the COVID-19 has affected everybody, not only in Virginia but in this country, and for that matter, around the world. And with COVID-19 and with people losing their businesses, losing their jobs, needing access to health care, needing access to food, a roof over their head, it's provided increased stress and anxiety to our families. And as a physician, especially with a background in neurology and psychiatry, anytime there's increased stress, then it adds to things like drinking and the use of illicit drugs, and so I think this is another reason why this program is so important right now, to remind people that we realize that you're hurting, that you're under stress, but to please remember that if you do partake of alcohol, that you don't need to be getting behind the wheel, and that there will be people out on the highways. When I say people, are law enforcement agents who are out there watching. And so Kirk, a long-winded answer to your question, I'm not overly surprised. Again, I think it's disappointing, but Virginians are hurting right now, and when that happens, it can lead to drinking and then needing to get out of the house, and you can imagine all kinds of things. And so I think that's a reality that we have to accept and that we have to deal with. So, Brian, any other thoughts on that?
I would concur. Obviously, very disappointing. Would hope those numbers would go down. What we also have seen is the triple-digit speeding. People taking advantage of roadways that do not have as much traffic any longer because of the COVID crisis, and people, going over 100 miles per hour, which is extremely dangerous as well. And so it's very unfortunate. And there are services. We would encourage individuals to access those services in their communities. Everybody is stretched now, even those community organizations, but we would encourage them to avail themselves of those services so they can, address that stress. And, a symptom of that may very well be, alcohol. And so, again, I think the prevention and the deterrence, we're going to have officers out there. We're going to have many law enforcement vehicles on the roadways, and would hope people would be deterred from getting on our roadways and making them, not only themselves but others, putting them in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm. Ashley, if I'm not muted, that the last question. Oh, sorry. Why are only 21 to 35-year-old male drivers the target? I'm sure this might be written by a 24-year-old male driver, but it is because it's a group that's just overrepresented in fatal car crashes where alcohol is a factor. Plus, it's quite frankly the group that has the highest BAC levels. If you think about it as a bell curve, on top of that curve are 21 to 35-year-old male drivers. And quite frankly, in Virginia alone, you're upwards of nearly 70% of all persons arrested for drunk driving are male drivers. So it's an unfortunate stereotype, but they're borne out in the data, which is one of the reasons that this campaign has long been focused on this hard to reach group. It's also a group that's willing to take risks, and we need to address that. And all we're simply doing is have fun, but simply plan ahead and let somebody else drive you home, whether that be a friend, a taxi cab, spending the night somewhere, one of the rideshare partners in the Commonwealth, or so forth. I don't know if the Secretary or Governor want to add anything to that last question.
Kurt, I would just say that we've seen the same thing with COVID-19. If you look at our numbers now and our statistics, the rate of spread and contracting this virus is in that particular age group, and so I would just encourage everybody to understand that as a reality, and not only this is not only for the protection of yourselves, but to especially those around you. And so whether that's with COVID-19 or driving under the influence, it's that age population that's most vulnerable right now.
Mr. Secretary, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that is correct.
Okay. Well, let's do this. I know we only had you guys for a limited amount of time. I want to thank everyone for attending this very unique news conference. We usually do this in person, obviously, like many news conferences, but it's still important to get the word out. We will share a video of this press conference, the fact sheet some of the facts you've heard today, but others maybe you didn't hear about, as well as the new 30-second video that we showed. We'll make sure that you have a link to that, which is also on YouTube. But I thank the governor, I thank the secretary for their time today. And like I said, we'll be following up immediately afterwards. To everyone else, have a great day. Thank you.
So much, Kurt.
Thank you, Kurt.